Logan. I got Jayson here with me and rocking out to Unit Racers on Super Nintendo. It's Connor Nielsen.
Hey, everybody.
Time for another How We Felt About. We're doing a double feature today. This weekend, we all saw, well, Connor probably saw one of these last week, but Jayson and I went and saw 65 on Friday, and we saw Creed 3 yesterday. So yeah, we saw them out of order because we thought 65 might be a more fun, like, evening kind of film, and then we went to Creed yesterday. So we're going to talk about each of those for you. We're going to do our regular sign flip thing. We'll probably do what Connor and I have been doing lately, where we will do a little bit of kind of non-spoiler talk in case you haven't seen the movies yet, and then we can go into a little bit of spoiler territory if you guys are interested in that. So if you're watching live, thanks so much for being here, and after the fact, we appreciate it as well. And live viewers, feel free to leave a regular comment or a super chat at any point, asking us about particular aspects of the film, and try not to get to spoiler questions until we actually get to the spoiler part of the review. Let's go ahead and jump right into things, guys. You want to start with 65?
Yes, that was that was the more I don't know. That's the movie that I remember more.
That's weird, but okay. So 65 is an Adam Driver movie, and Connor, this is, I'm sure you don't have this because you watch a lot more current movies than me, but this is the first Adam Driver movie I've seen in a while, and I thought something of a kind of curious pick for him. This is a kind of, in my mind, throwback pulpy science fiction piece that very much wants to be a kind of science fiction film from the 70s, which was a kind of a neat novelty, I thought, right out the gate. And it's a really super simple premise. Hey, Jayson, since you kind of enjoyed this movie and really wanted to talk about it, why don't you give us in 3 to 5 sentences just the basic premise of 65, would you?
Yeah, so basically this guy has to go pilot a spaceship for a couple years and leave his family, and then everyone dies, and he crashes 65 million years ago and to the time of dinosaurs, and he meets a girl that can't speak English, and he tries to teach her English. That's the basic plot. and they survive dinosaurs.
There's a couple of amusing assumptions in your premise there that people might make if they haven't seen the movie. First of all, there's no time travel component, so he's already 65 million years ago. He's just from another civilization, and he crashes on Earth before we have human beings. And we're hearing him speak English, but I'm sure it's some other language. Let's go ahead and let Connor get started with this sign flip. Connor, how did you feel about 65?
Yeah, 65 is interesting, and I appreciate your perspective that you just lent when you said that it reminded you of a 70s film. I imagine you're thinking of something like Logan's Run or Silent Running or something like that.
And there's a lot of Planet of the Apes in it.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know
was
about
gonna say-
Godzilla, but
I was thinking Godzilla the whole time.
okay, but I'm talking about like American 70s like science
Mhm.
fiction films. But anyway, yeah, go ahead, Connor.
I mean, there's Silent Running, Logan's Run. Blade Runner doesn't fit in there, but it has Run in the title, so you know, whatever. But I wish I maybe would have watched it with that mindset, because what I saw here was something that I don't know. Like when I say like kind of more business minded, that might sound a little cynical, but I saw like a respectable hustle here, where this is directed by the duo who also wrote it. And it kind of struck me as, so they wrote the John Krasinski directed A Quiet Place from several years back that was pretty popular.
Yeah, which I keep meaning
And
to see and haven't, but that's the only thing
Yeah.
I had heard of that they'd done. Yeah.
it's pretty good. They've kind of been around for a while, and what this struck me as is they were trying to construct the most appealing, like one could, if one was cynical, say derivative kind of thing of looking at what's in pop culture right now, putting it all into one movie, not making the budget too high, getting at least one bankable star in it that people like, and then making a lateral move to the director's chair. Because that's kind of what it struck me as. And if that's the hustle, I respect the hustle. Like this kind of struck me as like a spec script that's just more about like we want to sell something, and less like this is a massive passion project, and that's fine. Like studio programmers have been around for as long as there have been movies. That movie with Mike Coulter and Gerard Butler earlier this year, Plane, is exactly this kind of movie. I thought it was much better than this, because I gotta be honest, wasn't crazy about it. But it was one of those things where I kind of lost interest as it went along. It didn't lose me immediately. I think Adam Driver's a compelling guy, so if I have a best thing, it's Adam Driver. Something about he kind of reminds me of like an attractive Ron Perlman, where like he does kind of have this like big frame. He has a very low voice. He doesn't have a lot of range in his voice, but he can convey a lot with his face. He has a lot of range of emotion and just what he's able to give off, and he doesn't have to use his voice to do that. I gotta be honest though, the worst thing here is the
Can I interject for a second and say that
Yeah,
I
sure.
think, because I'd never thought of that before, I think he is having the career that some of us might have thought Tom Hardy was going to have.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah. Where Tom Hardy was just like, I don't want to be a movie star. I just want to be a character actor. So
Yeah.
I'm going to put masks on my face. I'm going to just go rah, 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 in all my movies.
Yeah, I'm not saying that because they both played characters with masks on their face because he's Kylo Ren, because obviously
Yeah, that's right.
Hardy does a lot more of that, but yeah, but I never thought of that.
That's a good call. I think the weakest thing here, though, is the direction. I don't think it really capitalizes on its concept enough. The trailer pitches you like basically it's Deadliest Warrior, what kind of what you've been reviewing with Austin every so often
Spaceman
on the
versus
replay.
dinosaurs?
Yeah, exactly. That is literally how I described it to a group of friends last night. Spaceman versus dinos. And I got to be honest.
The trailer pitched much more of a thriller than what this turns out to be.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, there's what you're sold and what you get.
Yeah.
I just think like when I was watching it, I don't even understand why this had to be dinosaurs. You could really replace dinosaurs with anything, and I don't feel like even in those scenes like they capitalize on them enough. There's a scene that reminded me a lot of that scene from Prometheus where Noomi Rapace has to like basically like do an alien C-section, and it's like this nerve-wracking crazy scene, and you can like poke holes in the logic of it, but they like Ridley Scott knows how to shoot that scene and like make it crazy. This one, there's like a part where there's like a bug inside of one of their mouths and the other person has to like get it out.
Yeah.
And it just kind of feels like a mild inconvenience. And so I don't know, like I found like a lot of
Yeah, and I should have been more afraid for her because she's frothing at the mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how I felt about did I freeze up a little bit?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's kind of how I felt about a lot of the action in this, is like they were more mild inconveniences that they kind of had to just kind of brush off. So I don't know. I would say I'm not feeling it. Not a terrible movie or anything, but I did not enjoy it. Anyways, what do you guys think?
Sorry, guys. Give me a second here. Trying to close a program here. Okay, anyway, pardon me. Jayson, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure.
Well, let's get a stark contrast here. Go ahead, Jayson.
Yeah. So I think best thing about this movie is the story. I really liked the story, and I liked how like kind of basic it was, where it's this guy who crashes on a spaceship and they're dinosaurs.
Go.
Yeah. And like I really liked the acting, and I don't know, that just kind of all put together it made it really, I don't know, a good movie. Especially, and I thought it was a really good movie to see in the theaters. Is also another thing that I had, was it's a good like the sounds and stuff where, like, you know, you see it in like the big speakers and it's like, whoa. Worst part about it is,
yeah, you said you were glad we saw it in a theater that felt like it had a rumble pack.
Yeah,
that's what you said.
Worst thing for me is probably I don't want to steal Dad's, because I know what Dad's is. So I'm gonna say it's too short. I feel like and there's not enough action, and there's not enough like dinosaurs and stuff, and kind of what Connor was saying. But I feel like it's 90 minutes. I feel like it should have been at least 2 hours.
What were you missing? Because you said you like the story, but you're saying it's too short. So did you need like longer action sequences? There
just weren't enough action sequences. Like, I really liked the connection between the two characters. But
there's plenty of that.
Yeah, but there just isn't enough action, and I think that's just because of the length. Like, they couldn't make more, and yeah. And there wasn't much of a budget either, so that made it so that like there wasn't a lot of
that's the bigger issue
stuff,
here,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
they weren't able to do more, and I wish they were able to.
But you seemed really enamored with it in the theater, and as we walked out, you said, "Oh, I really want to go see that again."
Yeah.
And like tomorrow, can we take Mom? So like, why did you enjoy it so much more than Connor did, who flipped red?
'Cause it was just really fun. I liked the score. I liked the sound effects. I liked the acting. I liked I liked how like minimalistic the story and the writing was, and I don't know. I really
More action than dialogue driven.
Yeah.
And it can't be that dialogue driven because we have yet another kind of typical relationship that has to be developed without very much in the way of words because they don't speak the same language.
Yeah. So I'm this movie I think is probably the best movie of the year so far.
You haven't seen very much.
Feeling it.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just launch right into best thing, worst thing, because I agree with some of Connor's issues, and I agree with some of the things that Jayson loved with this. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Connor, I think the best thing about this movie is landscapes. Really pretty landscape shots in this movie, and I really go in for that with a science fiction film that is putting us in the POV of aliens, where our world is supposed to look alien, and going back in time like this to kind of the primordial. Or I guess I shouldn't say primordial, because like the Earth's been around for a while, but we're not there yet. But pre the human civilization, I've always kind of liked that take that pulp science fiction likes to give us with the time of dinosaurs, like the Savage Land and that kind of thing, where the places in times on our world that seem as weird and out there as if we went thousands of light years into space and found an alien planet. And I like that perspective a lot. Those are the only places where I think the direction actually is more than adequate, Connor. What is that sound?
It's Connor's end.
Connor, something's buzzing on us real bad.
My bad. Hold on.
I'm not hearing anything now, but are you just muted? Okay, unmute for a second because I'm going to see if we're going to keep having that problem. That's really strange. Yeah, it's...
Uh-oh.
Your headphones are... Your headphones are bad.
His headphones are bad?
Or something, I don't know.
Okay, is it back?
Yeah, I don't hear it right now.
Oh, okay. I just replugged in my my headphones.
That's what I was going to suggest. Yeah. So hopefully we're good. Anyway, thanks. That was really good troubleshooting on your end. Why don't you just turn it off? Why don't you just turn it off and turn it back on again? I'm with you on the directing overall, but there are some just really, really nice scenery shots that kind of impressed me, and I liked the scope of it. With a lot of just individual shots, it reminded me a little bit of 28 Days Later, where you'll get these big, like, kind of long lens depth of field kind of shots, and that stuff didn't look too CGI ridden or infested, which I was surprised by. A lot of that felt like I was looking at something that was really there. Not so much with some of the dinosaur shots. The worst thing with this is it's just too ambitious for its budget and what it's got to work with. Connor, I've never had this before. I've rarely had this before, I should say, where your creatures look more credible when we have a close-up on them than when they're far away. It's so strange.
That is wild, yeah.
There were places where, particularly with the T-Rexes, where we'll get these real deep, focuses on T-Rex faces, and I'm like, that's not that far away from the Jurassic World movies. It looks at least as good as that, and where you'll get some expression and dinosaurs emoting a little bit, and I'm kind of buying it. And then you'll do these back off shots where they look so generic and not really in the frame with anything else, and then just some of the designs of them, I'm like, I can't decide if you guys did any homework or if you made up half your dinosaurs. Like, I couldn't decide. Sometimes it seemed like they were trying to be so alien, they just made up alien creatures. I don't know what that bug in the mouth thing was. That was like the SETI Alpha eel from Wrath of Khan. Like, did that exist in prehistory? Did we have that?
It looks just like that, yeah. Actually, to your point about landscape shots, yeah, I thought the locations were really kind of like whoever did location scouting, like really A+ on that. I'm not sure where they shot this. I meant to look this up.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It looked a lot like the Oregon coast, honestly. I don't know. It looked a lot like where I will go, like road tripping in the summertime. Like it was just really beautiful. Like there's the woods towards the end that don't have a lot of like leaves on the trees, and it's like the kind of shadows that are getting shot off at like the sunset. Like it looks really cool.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Oh,
they
really?
shot this in Louisiana.
It doesn't look like Louisiana. That's crazy.
No, that's
cool.
That's actually pretty darn cool.
That's really cool.
What this felt like to me, I had a couple of major comparisons I was making through this, besides just, like I said earlier, kind of generally like big epic 70s sci-fi. But again, it wasn't, it didn't have enough budget and resources to really accomplish what I felt like it was setting out to, which was the big disappointment for me. But it felt like No Man's Sky the movie. Like all the way down to ship design. Like the tone of it was like that video game, and it's very much that kind of situation where it's not an exploratory thing, because this guy is working to try to pay for care for his daughter who is dying of some kind of disease, but he's out on some sort of an expedition. It would have been nice if we were told anything about the expedition. I don't know if I'm assuming colonization because it's a sleeper ship, but I don't know for sure. It's the kind of, and I guess one of the reasons I'm thinking 70s sci-fi is it's a lot like Alien, where you've got a you've got like a crew in stasis, and a lot, I think we did that a lot in the 70s, because a lot of that stuff is based on 50s and 60s literary science fiction, which did a lot of sleeper ship stuff, because the idea is you're not going to be able to stay awake for the voyage, because the voyage will be so long. It's not warp travel, so you've got to go in stasis so that you can so that you won't age during the trip. And so like it might be a really long trip. Here it was only supposed to be 2 years, so I guess I don't 100% know why they're in stasis, but they are, whatever. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. So they the ship design looked like I said, something right out of No Man's Sky, and then it's the same sort of situation where you wind up on a planet and you start exploring, and then creatures start attacking you, and it's a survival thing, and you're just trying to get back to your ship in order to leave and go someplace else. And just the tone of that really appealed to me, because I like that game a lot, and I like these kinds of survival stories, and it also reminded me a lot of Riddick, but it's not as good as Riddick. And it also had a lot in common with Prey that came out last year or the year before. The Predator spinoff.
What's a normal budget for a movie?
Well, I mean, it of course completely depends on what you're trying to accomplish, but this movie was made on a $45 million budget, and it was originally supposed to be like 80 or 90, but I think a lot of that was tax breaks. That's why it got down to 45. That's what I read anyway, and this looks like a movie that it's so weird to say this. It's $45 million. I actually think I'm seeing all of that on screen, but they just needed more than that. This movie needs 100 at least to do all the creature effects.
$65 million.
It was, so when you say see this in the theater, I actually kind of patently disagree with that. I think this probably watches a lot better at home, because the seams won't show as much if you don't watch it too large. It felt like a movie that was, and again, like Prey, it kind of felt like a thing that was made for Hulu or something, and then was released on the big screen, because not just because the creature effects were a little subpar, but because they know that, and they're, like I said, overly ambitious. They're trying really hard not to overextend themselves, and it's hurting the suspense. Like Connor was saying, and Connor, that was my big issue, is you've got all these places where it just feels like a minor inconvenience, and I think that's just because they can't put the dinosaurs on screen for any amount of time. So they go, oh, here's a T-Rex. Oh, God, what's going to happen? We just got around it, and then we ran off, and now we're okay. And, there's this tiny raptor that jumped on me. Got him off, and then run away. Yeah. And that's the movie. We keep doing that. Having said that, the climax is a little better than the rest of it, as silly as some of the choices for what the dinosaurs are doing is. But I guess we'll go to spoiler territory at this point. I'm gonna say I've got a mild green on this. I did enjoy this. I would watch it again. I would not recommend it for the theater, because again, I think it looks better at home probably. But so spoiler alert now. We'll go into minor spoilers, and feel free to ask about stuff in the comments if you're watching right now and you've seen this. But Connor, you get to the end, and you the third act, and you get that kind of money shot of the T-Rex that wants revenge.
That looks really good.
It's like they put all their money on that shot.
The shot with Adam Driver in the middle and the dinosaur in the background is just amazing.
It's great.
Yeah.
No, that legitimately looked good. And you had this dinosaur that he shot earlier with. I don't know what that gun is. I thought it was a laser thing, but it's not. I don't know what it's shooting.
It's just shooting bullets. Kind of. No.
He's got a lot of shots for that thing. It seems like an energy weapon, but it doesn't function like an energy. Anyway,
it looks like bullets.
So he shoots. Earlier in the movie, this T-Rex in the eye, and it gets this massive wound. It's got blood all over its eye, and then later it's pissed. It's got its bloody eye, and it's coming after him. And I'm like, okay, this got cool again. Wait, where's this been the whole movie? And then you've got dinosaurs trying to eat a hologram, and
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about that because. Like, I don't know how much stock I can take in Jurassic Park, but Jurassic Park taught me that T-Rexes operate on movement, and that T-Rex thinks that the hologram is Adam Driver, and I cried foul on that. I don't know if I bought that, but you had a really good point about that.
So I said that they were probably like paying homage to Jurassic Park in the kitchen scene. With the mirror.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can see that.
Or the reflection off the stove.
Yeah, off the stove.
No, that's a good call. That might be
Or
what's going on there.
Is it a stove, or is it a?
It's not important.
Oh.
It's a cabinet. Yeah.
It's an appliance of some sort.
It's not important.
Yeah, so I guess another thing that was a little disappointing here for me, kind of going into the ending, there is a plot element that if you've seen the trailer and you know anything about history, you can maybe put some stuff together. And it kind of comes in as like a third
You didn't like
act.
you didn't like the convenience of the asteroid?
No, I'll tell you why. See, it's
I'm
like
going to
one of
take
those
up
things-
for it. I'm going to take up for it because it is intentionally schlocky from the beginning, and the characters are all playing it straight, so I think it 100% works.
Well,
I think it's
okay.
hilarious.
Here's the thing, though. Do you remember, like, you and I were talking about the trailer, and I was like, it's really weird in the trailer. He says, our spaceship was hit by an undocumented asteroid. And I'm like, that feels like either just like a part of the line out of context, or like there's more to like the history of this, or like to the world where it's like we document asteroids. And you were like, yeah, I think maybe uncharted asteroid is probably a better point. And then in the movie they say undocumented asteroid belt. I'm like, okay, I knew it. I knew there was something up with that line.
That's a good point. Yeah, that is weird script writing. It's like,
yeah, and so
if I'm critiquing that, I'm like, word choice.
Yeah, well, no, it's funny because it's like maybe it's because I've done enough editing to where it's like I hear like lines of dialogue and trailers and I'm like, something's up with that. Like that doesn't add up. No, so it's like one of those things where I guess like, you know, that one T-Rex wanted revenge. I guess the asteroid wanted revenge too, because it's like, oh, I didn't kill you. I'm coming back for seconds and I'm going to take out everything. But like,
No. They explained that. That's fine because there's pieces of the asteroid all over the place. It's like it's coming apart. So a piece of it hit his ship and then ran it off course, and then it crashed, and the rest of it's on its way. And it only took a couple of days. That's all plausible. The funny thing about it, of course, is just the timing, that the asteroid that is going to take out the dinosaurs happens to be coming at exactly the same time as his ship is going across the Milky Way.
Yeah, no,
that's what's funny about it.
No, see, that's funny. But like, and I was just joking. Like,
Or
it's
our
fine.
solar
Like,
system, I should say.
I wasn't saying. I wasn't being serious when I was suggesting that the asteroid wanted revenge. But like,
okay.
But what I didn't like about that is that like they didn't have enough. The script doesn't do enough to build up the dinosaurs as a threat. That they need to just introduce the asteroid as like the ticking clock. And I'm like, wow, like the dinosaurs like really didn't have to be here. Like it was just one of those things where like I felt like it took a lot away from the appeal of what the elevator pitch concept of this movie is. And I mean, I guess the movie also wasn't doing enough to win me over on it anyways. And I just felt like they gave up on the dino element. And I'm like, hey, I wanted to see dinos.
Yeah, and I can totally see where you're coming from. I guess all I was saying was at first I thought maybe I would mind the convenience of it, and then I went, nah, it's kind of fun pulp sci-fi schlock. But I see where you're coming from, and I do think maybe an issue is just that it doesn't have anything even surface to say about like evolution or biological progress versus like human progress or anything. But when you get to the credits, it kind of feels like it wants to say something about that. And it isn't really. Like you've got so you got the dinosaurs. They're primitive. They're scary. They're completely instinct based. Our main character is having to survive. He's having to lean on his primal instincts in order to survive. There's maybe a little bit of his not like losing humanity. I wouldn't go that far, but like he's having to act a little bit less civilized in that I'm stretching here, but in like lying to the little girl about her parents and everything in order to get her where he needs her to go. And it's not really saying anything about any of that. You get to the end and the dinosaurs are still trying to kill these people even while there's like hell is raining down around them. I don't know why they're interested in this now. It's the same problem as the beginning of Jurassic House, which does exactly the same thing, where it's like, here comes all this volcanic magma, but man, that T-Rex still really wants to eat us.
That raptor is gonna get that chick in that bunker if it's the last thing it does.
Yeah, or it wasn't a raptor, it was some other kind of dinosaur that was just there
right.
because we never used that. I forget what it was, but yeah, it was kind of that situation. And then you get to the very end, and they escape in the the other part of the ship that they've been trying to get to the whole movie. And I mean, again, it is kind of nice that you've got a clear thing that your protagonist wants, and he spends the whole movie trying to get to it. Maybe that ticking clock should have been there from the beginning, and then you can have like a two-pronged threat. And if you played the dinosaurs a little bit larger and did more with them, it might have been okay that you had both of those things. But then over the credits, I just thought it was really curious that we like go through the passage of time, and you have you get past the extinction level event, and then you have greenery, and then you have civilization, and then you go to the rest of the credits in black, and I go, so what about that? Why did it matter, to your point, why did it matter that it was Earth?
Right. I got a question for you. Kind of going back to the pulp science fiction
Please do.
that you're talking about. So the plot of this movie, so I never saw M. Night Shyamalan's After Earth, but the setup is kind of the same, right?
Because I heard it was terrible, so I never bothered.
I also heard it was terrible, but like, I'm not saying like this ripped off the plot of After Earth. It's like, I mean, characters going from point A to point B because that's where the other part of like your vessel is, like that predates After Earth. I'm just curious if there's like a story or like some kind of science fiction piece that like all of these things are pulling from.
I think there was just a lot of short fiction that did this kind of thing.
Okay.
And you had a lot of stuff like John Carter that would go to these sorts of places, but like I'm rusty on my sci-fi literature, but a lot of stuff in pulp magazines where sometimes serialized, sometimes just a real quick simple short story, but where you do these kinds of premises. I'm sure this was a story. Like, they probably don't even know it. You know what I mean? Like, they probably weren't basing this on anything, but I'm sure this exact idea was a story in the 50s.
Okay, I got you.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't. Like, Twilight Zone would have done this episode if they could have done dinosaurs. Like, it's just a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, I do want to say, as far as like you and Jayson are kind of going toe to toe on the whole, should you see this in a theater? I would recommend not seeing it, but I will say that since I did watch it, I'm kind of glad I saw it in a theater, because the lighting is so dim throughout a lot of this. It kind of has like this like underexposed digital cinematography, and if I watched this at home like in the daytime, like I have a pretty good setup, so I probably would have been fine at night. But like average consumer, I don't know how good this would look on like their TV. So if you are interested, I'd maybe recommend like a matinee. My ticket was $6, so I was happy about that. But I'm kind of glad I did see it in the theater, if I did see it at all.
That's a good point. But if it was a little bit darker on your screen, it might mask some of the not great CG with the dinosaurs.
Ooh, that's a good point. Okay, yeah.
There were some shoddy looking effects, but I didn't ultimately care as much as I might with some other things, simply because all I wanted for this movie, Connor, was for it to not take itself too seriously. Check. And for it to be better than Jurassic Plague. Check.
I wasn't bored out of my skull, so it's significantly shorter. So
no, and I wasn't constantly baffled by dialogue and plot points. It was just a fun dinosaur romp, but it could have been more fun.
There isn't a shot of a girl saying, "Eyes on me," and she's in the middle of the frame and she's out of focus. Yeah, there wasn't that.
There wasn't whatever is going on with the pilot, that whole movie. I don't know what what she was or what she was on about, that pilot.
It's so bad.
Real quick before we move on, Jayson mentioned the score, and I gotta say, that was another thing that made this feel like a, I don't want to say send up because it's not a parody, but like kind of a throwback 70s thing. Usually I'll complain when a score for a sci-fi movie is this busy. Actually, I really liked that with this. It's kind of overwrought, and I liked it for that. Danny Elfman didn't get scoring credit. He got assistant scoring credit. He was working on this initially, and then somebody else came in, and I guess maybe some of his motifs stuck around. But there is apparently some Elfman in the score. I just wanted to throw that out there because I didn't know that until I read about it this morning.
And Giacchino was score consultant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So there's a lot of different people on the score for this movie, but Chris Bacon is the main credit.
Oh no, he didn't.
Who did a lot of stuff I don't like, but you know what though? He scored Bates Motel, and that's got a great soundtrack. So
yeah, I think as far as the score goes, I think I'm disappointed about with like at least the scripting and story of this is I think that there's plenty of time that is given to these two characters and their dynamic, but I don't think with that time the writers and directors do anything more than like the bare minimum.
That's fair.
I do think though that the score does inject a sort of personality to them that I don't think the directors are really doing, and I think the score does complement the performances pretty well actually. So thanks for bringing that up. I wouldn't have brought up that if you guys hadn't talked about it.
Real quick before we move to the other movie, I want to talk about I want us to talk about the title.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it's really funny. Because, like, it just goes, like...
No, that was baffling, and I loved everything about it.
20 minutes into an hour-and-a-half movie, and it just goes 65 million years ago. Some guy crash-landed on Earth.
And then that all fades away, and it just keeps Earth at the bottom?
And then it does, like, the Guardians thing.
It's really efficient, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really economical because it's the title of the film and a timestamp and a place stamp all at once, and then
story. Never
again. You know, it's not like you ever get a place in the movie where it's like 85 clicks from the from the mountain or something from the volcano. It's just that one bit. That's all you need. And like, I love how bombastic it is. It's almost like intentionally pretentious. That bit, and I'm not suggesting that the whole movie is this way, but it's got flashes of it. Places in this movie are like if Jurassic House realized how like overwrought and how pretentious it was.
That was the first.
Because I couldn't decide with Jurassic House if it even knew what it was. This movie's doing that crap on purpose, and I respect it. I really do.
That was the first. That was the thing that made me go, okay. They know that this is gonna be over the top. Like, this is gonna be over the top and crazy and.
Because I was afraid it would be no fun at all and it would take itself too seriously. Now, I will say there are a couple scenes where it kind of has to hit you over the head with this is the comedy scene. And I always hate that in a movie like this, and that's where the score does not help it. You know what I'm talking about, Connor? Where like they're walking, and he gets his. This is supposed to be like developing the relationship, you know, like these are the fun buddy moments that they'll remember later when she saves him from the quicksand, you know, and. He gets his hand, like, he kills a bug, like a huge bug, and it's like all over his hand, and I'm like, I don't know, you keep touching stuff that might be toxic and kill you, but you're really lucky that he scans the, like, berries, and it's like, don't eat that, that's really that's poisonous, and I'm like, you keep touching flowers, and you're not scanning the like, how do you know you're not going to die? She like, puts a flower in his hair, and I'm like, it'd be really funny if the movie was over right now. because she put like a toxic flower in his hair. But you got the scene where they're walking. He's got all this gross stuff all over his hands. He's trying to wipe it off on trees and stuff. And then the music, Jayson, might as well be like TOS, with the comedy strings. It's like like everybody laugh right now, and I hate it when movies do that.
Yeah, no, like I when they first like started talking to each other, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's sort of like a Last of Us, Mandalorian, Logan type thing. That girl looks a lot like the girl from Logan.
She does. I had that the whole movie.
Her eyebrows almost look, they're like almost the same as Daphne Keene's in that movie. But when I was watching
Dakota.
Yeah, right. And then it's funny because it's like I'm like, oh, okay. I'm waiting for the scene where like they don't understand each other, and then Adam Driver's going to use an expletive, and she's going to remember that word, and that'll be the joke. And then that scene happens with the scene you were talking about with the bug. And I was like, of course, check, you got it.
Some of that was a little cliche, and I gotta be honest with you, I did question through a lot of the movie whether we needed the added hurdle, the added irritation for Adam Driver's character. I get Mills, I guess is his name. That they had the language barrier, because it's like I respect the idea that you're gonna have different languages on another planet, and Star Trek always has this problem where it's always like each planet has, except for ours, has one culture. And it's always nice when science fiction actually has different cultures and different ethnicities and stuff. So like I'll give it that, but at the same time, was it necessary? What was the reason of doing it that way? Like usually the situation would be you land on a planet and you have a language barrier because you're dealing with an alien. But here it's like you're both from the same planet and you've got this language problem, and I can't decide if it's a help or a hindrance to the movie, because like on the one hand, I appreciate that the movie is mostly action driven, that we don't have to have like pages and pages of dialogue between these two characters. So I don't know, like I guess I'm a little mixed on that choice.
Yeah, it is kind of odd. This is just a thing that like I gotta just remove from my brain. But I have this thing where whenever we do something like Aliens like this, where it's like, we don't have any English or like Chinese or whatever like characters, like letters or anything. We've created like an alien alphabet for these like characters to like write with, but they say things like thumbs, and I'm like, that to me is such a human word, like or like they're so humanoid, and then like they will start like saying things that are almost like human slang, and I'm like, I feel like if you're coming from a different world, like you'd almost use different words for like certain things that aren't as like specific.
So there's a couple schools of thought on that, and that is, weirdly enough, that's actually one of the things that made it feel sort of 70s to me, because
you're right, that does add to that retro feel though. And like, so when you said that off the top, I'm like, that is a really good point.
There are a couple schools of thought. Sometimes what we like to do with like alien cultures like that, particularly in a situation like this where there's no Earth culture to compare it to, it's weird. Like this is in a really strange way, like as Star Wars as it is anything, right? Because it's like a long time ago, but it's not a galaxy far. It's here, and so what we'll often do is make cultures seem, in the language, seem really, really formal. So that so that nobody dings us for having slang and talking too much like regular people talk now. The other school of thought is to be like completely contemporary and basically say, this is just, you have to we're like interpreting this as you'll understand it watching it, but what you're seeing can't be exactly what's actually happening. I see that. It's like it's just a somewhat different interpretation.
Yeah, and that's the kind of like the thing that like while I'm watching it, I am kind of seeing both sides of that argument, and I was like, I really wish I have come to a conclusion where I can reconcile that. Yeah, like, but right now I'm not there, so it's not the movie's fault or anything. Like I said, this is just kind of like a weird.
Well, no, I was with this particular case, I was somewhat conflicted on that point, actually, Connor. I sort of for the reason or something you were talking about at the very beginning when you said if you add up too many elements with this, it starts to feel a little homogenized and a little bit like too much like a corporate product. So is that like classic sci-fi school of thought, like I want it to be, or is it there to try to be more accessible to a general audience? Like we've got to have the S word because people can relate to them.
Right.
Instead of letting people actually kind of talk like...
That was another, like, funny thing that...
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. Hey, we're gonna go to Creed here in a second. Let's take just a real quick couple-minute break, if we could. Okay. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about Creed 3, everybody. Connor, everyone can hear you.
Oh, no.
All right, folks. Sorry about that longer break. We are going to go ahead and get into Creed here in just a second. Connor, I had one more question I wanted to ask you about 65 real quick, though, because there was a thing that I meant to bring up that I didn't get to. I had one, because, again, really simple plot, but I had one big question that just on first viewing, I wondered if I missed something, so I wanted to ask you if you could clear this up. So Adam Driver, Mills, he's got this part where he's kind of breaking down and explaining the reason that he's feeling guilty. We didn't really talk about this thing with his character arc, where he's feeling guilty for what's happened with his daughter, for not being there with her when she died, and he's seeing, as I think, taking care of this other little girl as kind of his way to like redeem himself, to pay penance for that. And he says that the last time he saw his daughter, she was angry with him. And
I had a question about that too.
And that, okay, so it's not just me. He goes, last time I saw her, she was angry with me, and then when I left, she got sick. And none of that gels with what we had earlier in the movie. And the only thing I could figure was that he meant that she had gotten sick while he was gone, and when he came back, he just left again in the desperate hope that he could save her, when maybe what he should have done was stay there, but that's not fleshed out, so I don't know if that's what he means. And I also don't know if when he says the last time I saw her, is if he just means like in those logs, like the communiques, but I don't think that's what he's talking about. It seems like the opening scene with her doesn't gel with what he's saying later, because she seems to completely understand and appreciates why he's leaving. She's just sad, but she's not angry.
Yeah, no, the anger does seem to kind of come from where, like, those logs where it's like she is sick and dying, and she's like kind of going through those emotions like any teenage person dying.
Yeah, that part where
probably.
she says, I hate you right now, Dad, because you're not here.
Yeah, and like, so like that's the only way I can reconcile that. As far as like when I left, she got sick. What I think what he means by that is when I left, then she got like really sick. Like it was kind of one of those things where we couldn't make it work. So
okay,
that's at least what I was.
I'd have written that monologue differently.
I would have too. Maybe it's supposed to be that he's like more guarded and saying like she got sick after I left, or because he doesn't want to like bore her with all the details. But I think that we. But
also, who cares? Because she can't understand most of what he's saying, and it ends up
exactly.
Like you won't understand this reference, Connor, but it was like a Darmok.
Yeah.
Kind of moment where, I mean, there's very little of what she's saying she's even gonna get.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually thinking Darmok when I was watching it.
That's a TNG episode that you should watch, Connor. That's all about language barrier. It's about an alien that speaks only in metaphor.
Okay, I think I've heard of this.
Yeah, it's on a lot of people's top 10 TNG episodes.
Well, when I get done watching TOS, and then all the TOS, 4 of the 5 TOS movies, then TNG starts. I'm trying to watch Star Trek like in chronological order.
Oh, good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
Have fun with
excited.
that. Yes, there are 4 before. Well, no, did 5 come out before? No. The TNG was on when 5 came out. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because 5 was
89, wasn't it? Yeah. TNG starts at 87.
And then Undiscovered Country was
91. Yep. Very good. Nobody cares.
I made a timeline.
I care.
How I know that.
Oh, that's right. You did make a Star Trek timeline.
I've seen your timeline. It's really cool.
Oh, thanks.
He was here. He probably saw it on the wall.
Oh.
When he was here.
Yeah, I was in the guest room. It was on the wall, and I was actually just like looking at it and kind of studying. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. I kind of looked at that for a few minutes.
Okay, are you guys ready to get to Creed 3?
Absolutely.
Sure. I have nothing to say about this movie. You guys can say all the things.
I'm sure some thoughts will come to you as we move along. Although what's really funny is, like 2 or 3 times since we saw it, he keeps needing me to remind him what we went to yesterday. He keeps forgetting we saw that movie.
No, it's a joke.
Or is it a joke? I couldn't tell.
Well,
we sat down and you went, okay, we're gonna talk about 65, and then what? What else? What did we do yesterday? And I did not think you were joking.
No, I keep joking. I keep being like, so what did we do Saturday? I don't. Did we do something?
like John and I with Pete Ross in the Smallville streams.
Yeah.
Like, who's this guy? Why does he keep showing up? I don't even know who that is. Okay, Connor, would you give us a real brief synopsis of Creed 3? Just in 3 to 5 sentences, what happens in this?
All right, so Creed the Third is a film that is directed by Michael B. Jordan and stars him with Jonathan Majors and Tessa Thompson. Picking up some years after Creed the Second, we have Adonis Creed retires after becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world after a rematch with Pretty Ricky Conlon, who was the villain of the first Creed movie. And then he retires and is sort of not opening up his own gym, but he's becoming like a promoter. He owns the gym. He's training new fighters, new generation of fighters. And then Damian Anderson, an old friend from his, Oakland, or I think it's Oakland, days as a youth, who was, in group homes, who was a buddy that was in prison, and now he's back. He says, I want a shot at the title. And so Adonis feels conflicted about wanting to reconcile and redeem a past mistake from his childhood with being who he is and his current state of wealth and success. And anyways, it's a boxing movie. It's a Lego sequel of the Rocky series, and this is the first time Stallone has not had any hand in the creative process of this movie. Although he does have a producer's credit, I think that is purely contractual.
It's completely obligatory.
Yeah,
he had a huge falling out with those producers, does not like the direction they're taking things, doesn't want to be involved at all, and it's a sad situation.
It's a really sad situation, but he does say he would come back for a Creed 4 if they agreed on the direction. You know what? I hope that situation clears up a little bit. Anyways, that's kind of more or less what's going on in Creed 3.
Yeah.
Who wants to take the reins on this one?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, you start.
Okay, I'll be real brief out the gate, and then we'll get into it. So I think this series so far has held to a pretty high standard of quality, both in storytelling and filmmaking. I don't think Creed 3 reaches the heights of the first two, but I think it's even compared to those, still pretty solid. Overall, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I've got issues with it, and more issues than I did with either of the other two, and I am a little bit worried that some of it might fall apart on repeat viewings. Like, the more I've thought about it, I'm like, I don't know about this aspect, I don't know about this aspect.
That's me too.
As I'm watching it, I thought you had nothing to say. I'm just kidding. As I'm watching it, I'm certainly enthralled with the drama of it. I think we have a kind of classic arch nemesis in Dame. I think my best thing, I'll try not to get too nitty gritty yet. My best thing with this, where do I want to go? No, that's too small. Okay, so let me say this real quick. One of the things that I was really taken, this is so minor, one of the things I was really taken by with the movie, Connor, is just how much Adonis, as he's getting older in the face, is looking like Apollo. Like, I couldn't believe how close those actors were. It's like they gave him that very specific mustache to draw out just how much he's looking like him now. And I guess I'm saying that to say, and again, this might seem a little bit too minor, and like I'm not liking this movie well enough to come up with like a real big, great best thing, but I think this really was my favorite thing about it. As little as we're dealing with the lore of the Rocky franchise, I did really appreciate all of the character parallels between Adonis and his father. They start off kind of subtle, and then we do finally start really kind of bringing them home and like blatantly discussing them in dialogue. But I like the ways in which the story reflects and mirrors the first Rocky, but isn't straight up that movie. Like Adonis is put in a similar situation that his father is in the first movie, where he's able to give an underdog a shot at the title, but like it's not fighting him. It's for very different reasons. Like it's not a one-to-one thing, but he does have to deal with something that his dad did, and then it's interesting seeing how the two men handle it separately. And I like their character parallels between the antagonist, Dame, and Adonis's wife, which was really unexpected. So I guess just overall, like interpersonal conflict and parallels is probably my favorite thing. You need great writing in a movie in the Rocky franchise, and this has a lot of really good writing in it. I've got again issues with some story direction and stuff, and I don't love what we're left with at the end. I don't think. But weakest thing is, and I think overall Jordan does a decent job with his directing, and I like a lot of his camera placement and stuff. But I don't like how the boxing fights are shot at all. Like there's too much slow motion. Jayson yesterday said it looks like DCU, or like DCEU fights. I had that too.
It's just a Rocky movie set in the DCEU with the boxing fights.
I don't want a Rocky movie to degenerate into like special effects. Bombasticness, and I had that with the fights.
What was the thing with the? I mean, I don't want to get too into. Yeah, but like there was a fight where like just everything was gone, and there was just a black background.
Yeah,
for like most of the fight.
Well, we can talk about that later. That's an interesting choice, but it's kind of like obvious on the no symbolism, and I don't know how I felt about that. Just on a symbolism level, but yeah, I didn't love the way the action was shot. The choreography was fine, but the way it was shot I didn't love. So anyway, that's so I'm mixed on some things with it. I think overall I still really liked it, and it's a very high bar with those first two, because I think Creed 2 is every bit as good as Creed 1, and 3 is not a massive step down. And it's also impressive that it doesn't end up just being Rocky 3 again, or some other Rocky movie. Like, these movies have done a really good job of staying away from that kind of territory. Like, they've got an antagonist that you probably could, is most closely comparable to the guy from 5. Like, there's a lot of Rocky 1 here, there's some Rocky 5 in here, it's interesting. How did you feel about this movie, Connor?
So let's wind the clocks back.
Oh, I forgot to do that. I am feeling it, certainly.
Yeah. So if we go back in our time machine, if you remember when I was over at your place and we shot the top 10 favorite movies of the decade list, Creed 2 was on my list. But that was actually at a point when I had not seen any of the Rocky movies. I'd seen the 2 Creed movies, but I hadn't seen any of the Rocky movies. And that, I said, Creed 2 made me want to be a Rocky fan. And so since then, I've actually watched all of the Rocky movies. And in the week leading up to Creed 3, I watched the 2 Creed movies again. As every other American man, Rocky's awesome. I love the Rocky movies. And with the Creed movies, I like the first one quite a bit. Like, I think it's a good movie. It has a great final act. And then I think Creed 2 is so good. Like, it honestly rivals the original Rocky as my favorite in the series. Like, I love that movie. It's
That's
almost
not
like
crazy talk. It's not. I mean, it is that good. I still think they're on par, Creed 1 and 2, but I totally get why you're saying that.
Well, yeah, and so going into Creed 3, I was hyped. I think, having where Creed 2 ends, and it kind of sucks that Stallone has, felt the need to kind of walk away. But the last time we saw Rocky, when he was talking to Adonis anyways, he puts his hand on his shoulder and he says, "It's your time now."
Yeah.
And that felt like a metatextual passing of the baton. Like, if we never see Rocky again, it'd be okay. And this time we see Michael B. Jordan stepping into the director's chair, which is what Stallone had done in the past in this series. And we're kind of seeing, like, Adonis really take over this movie, Michael B. Jordan is allowing the Creed franchise to become as much a part of his DNA as the Rocky series was for Stallone. And that's really cool. I like this movie quite a bit. I don't like it as much as the first two. I think it's definitely not as much as the second one, which I think is almost like a magnum opus of Lego sequels. Like, it's maybe the best one ever. Like, it's so good. But it's quite good, I think. I think where it ultimately succeeds the most is in the confidence of Michael B. Jordan's direction, in the sense that, like, there are, I think, story contrivances and kind of leaps in logic and, like, story, like, subplots that just kind of, like, fizzle out and don't really end up going anywhere. But while, like, it's kind of like when we were talking about Catwoman Lonely City, Cat, like,
Yeah.
I had the thing that you had where while I was watching it, it was so confident and sure-handed, I wasn't questioning anything. And then kind of as it was wrapping up and culminating, and then after I watched it, I'm like, okay, there were a few things here and there that just weren't as strong, you know, as they felt to be while I was watching it. But overall, thumbs up. I am feeling this one. Bring on Creed 4, I say. But yeah, no, there are definitely, like, criticisms I have and things that I can throw out there. But yeah, best thing, guys, Jonathan Majors is a great actor, right?
Yeah, he is.
Turns out when you don't give him a crappy character named Kang, he can be actually awesome.
Yeah.
Diamond Damian can annihilate Kang and all his stupid variants all by himself. He doesn't need a council of dames.
Yeah, and
he just do it himself.
This might sound controversial, but I think he might even be able to beat Ant-Man in a fight.
Whoa, really? You think so? And then I'd say the worst thing, I might have to, like, it's been a week since I've seen it, but I think probably the weakest thing here is, like I said, some story contrivances. I think, like, the timetable on how this is working, there are a few, like, leaps in logic, and, like, certain things just kind of have to, like, kind of be contrived to truncate the time. And I think as far as, like, the pacing of the movie goes, it's paced the way it ought to be, but in terms of, like, the amount of events that need to be fit into the amount of time, like, within the movie, like 6 months or however long this movie takes over the place of, it's a little much. But anyways, let's get into it.
Well, I think it's a little ambiguous about how much time passes in certain places. Like, Jayson had, and we can, oh, you know what, you've got to do your sign flip too, but I'll say this real quick, because I don't think this is too spoilery, but I'll say this somewhat cryptically. Jayson had the question of, after the first fight that Dame wins, does he win any other fights before the big one at the end? Like, does he do anything else, or is it just the one? I think it's just the one.
It's just the one.
Okay, Jayson, why don't you go ahead and do your side flip?
Okay. So my favorite thing was, I don't know, I liked the basic story, like, in the first, like, I really liked the first, like, 20 minutes of this movie. That's probably my best part, was I liked just, like, the first 20 minutes of this movie, setting up the characters, everything. And, like,
well, and you said you really like the tragic backstory.
And yeah, I really like the tragic backstory. And my favorite thing about the story is either, like, the tragic backstory or the stuff with the kid, with sign language and stuff. And I don't know, I enjoyed that stuff. My least favorite thing is definitely how it's directed. I didn't really like the slow motion stuff, and especially just with the fights, like, I don't know, I didn't like how it was, I didn't like how.
And he's not just cribbing what I said. As we walked out the theater, he was like, "Why does a Rocky movie have to do with that?"
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like I liked this movie. But it definitely wasn't as good as at least the second one. I don't remember anything about the first one, but I just remember that Michael B. Jordan's in it. Also, a funny thing is that the Rocky movies are just almost just in the MCU now, because almost every single actor has been in the MCU in the Creed franchise, like Michael B. Jordan and the Kang guy, and
Stallone.
even Stallone has been in the MCU.
And Tessa Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has Wood Harris popped up in like the Netflix shows? I feel like I've seen him in one
Maybe
of those.
so.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not even that many characters in this movie, and they've all been in the MCU. That's a terrific point. With the sign language thing that you brought up, Jayson, Connor, movies have, as far as just text on the screen, they've all learned from John Wick now, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's the thing I didn't really like, is like just like in movie series, I really like it when things are just uniform, and in this movie, like, it breaks the formatting stuff that the first two do. Like the title card is different than the first two,
yeah,
and the sign language, like the subtitles are different. And you're right, I thought of John Wick as well, like the Ruby Rose assassin who just like signs, and it's like it's a lot like that.
It feels like, I forgot she was in that. It feels like and I don't know that this is a bad thing, but it feels like Jordan really trying to put his own stamp on it. And the problem is, it is a franchise, and Rocky always had a bit of a uniformity to it. I wish we hadn't lost... Okay, I wish we either hadn't lost the giant letters going across the screen at the beginning, or that Creed just had its own thing that it did.
Yes.
And it doesn't. It's been different every time.
Has it been? I thought the first two kind of keep it the same, where it's like just the letters kind of just appearing, fading in from like.
Did they still have that? I don't remember.
Yeah,
it's been a little while since I've seen those.
The second one did that. Yeah, no.
Okay, well, if they did, then I'm really gonna complain about this, because I wish they'd hung on to it. But
me too. Yeah, no. Sorry, we were gonna say that?
No, nothing.
Yeah, no, but there's some cool stuff in this that I really like. Like, kind of just going into, I'm so glad that I saw this after seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, because what I didn't like about that is just the way characters feel like they're all just teenagers, and they just kind of talk like they're teenagers.
This feels like a grown-up movie again.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like, what I love about the Creed movies, especially 2 and now 3, is they know how to incorporate the goofy Rocky elements, like 3 and 4 stuff, into a grounded thing.
Yeah.
And it's still kind of goofy, but damn it, you buy it. You know, and that's what's so cool. Like, it's like you have like, what's irritating about like stuff like Quantumania is where, okay, we want to have it to be where like, a character wants to talk about like, they have trauma and like stuff, and they want to they're repressed, so they have the character say, I have trauma and I need to repress it. Okay, now maybe that's not a literal line of dialogue, whatever. But like the thing is, in like something like this, what's cool is that like we're dealing with stuff that is like, maybe had articles written about stuff where you want to say like, say, toxic masculinity, or whether it's like men opening up and getting in touch with their emotions and like all this stuff. This is like about that in like a really compelling way, like having
in a really mature way, because it could feel so like afternoon television. It can feel so sitcomish about it. Well, it is kind of that standard cliche. We've got a man. He doesn't like opening up about his feelings. It's causing him marital problems. His wife needs him to speak up more. But it doesn't feel generic. It feels like it comes from a real place with this specific person. So it's so it is commentary about how this is a problem that a lot of men have in general. But it's through the lens of this guy, and finally we get a lot more about his background than we have in the other two movies, and we getting more of a sense of his, the broken home and his growing up in what do you call it, in like foster homes. You really get more of a sense of where that comes from. He's had to be guarded. He hasn't had anybody looking out for him, and the one guy that was got spoilers now, got thrown in prison in trying to protect him. Mm-hmm. And he feels guilty about that. And
it's cool because like you have like his not his biological mother, but his sort of adoptive mother who was married to his dad, and how like she like adopted him as like an act of forgiveness, and like that's like really thoughtful, compelling character work.
That's true.
And like there's like the stuff where he finally opens up to his wife and she's talking about my emotions ain't easy for me either. And it's like that's so cool. And I also like how he like compared both his wife and him, where they both have kind of gone into producer roles, where like she can't record music anymore because of her hearing loss, so now she's like a producer. He can't fight anymore, so he's a trainer promoter. They're kind of in that same stage of life, and they both kind of have similar like unfulfillments and like things that they never really got around to doing that they maybe wanted to do, but they don't really open up to each other about that. And like that's really good. Like this is really like compelling character drama.
Yeah, and it's more compelling because they have a daughter now who's a little older and is talking and is following her father's footsteps, for better or worse. And so like you have to have good communication as a couple to be able to raise a child. I thought the scene where she walks in on them fighting was pretty powerful. And the idea, I didn't think of this until what you just said, Connor. This just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. They both have issues communicating while the way they express themselves is broken down. So and they're receding, or they're either receding into themselves or trying really hard not to. So like it's kind of an interesting. There's kind of an interesting symbolic thing with her. Afraid that she's going to fully lose her hearing, and she's still trying to be like outgoing and in the world, but it seems almost like she's afraid that she is like falling further into herself. And maybe that's partly why she's able to open up more readily than he is, because she's scared to death she won't be able to. You know, and she can't express herself through her music. The only way he knows how to express himself, particularly when he's frustrated or angry, is through violence. And not only is he not fighting anymore, but he doesn't want to show that example to his daughter, where the only way out of conflict is fighting. There's also a part of him that because I mean they talk about this, that he thinks sometimes violence actually is the answer. And so that is a very complex relationship and dynamic between them.
Mm-hmm. And what's cool is when you bring Damien into this, he does sort of like he does kind of like stoke those old feelings. Like he kind of motivates Adonis to like be more like recede into himself, and like there's a great scene in this right when Damien first shows up at their house. That like this is good acting. Like Jonathan Majors shows up and he's very street, right? Like he like just the way he carries himself. Yeah, he's been to prison. Like he's like looks hyper defensive. He's kind of twitchy, like, but it's not like this over the top thing. And he shows up and he's just like, they're like, oh yeah, you found the place, and he's like, he kind of has this joke, but like it's this agitated joke where he's like, yeah, I just asked where the black family lives, and then it's like you have Adonis is like, there are others that live in the area. He's like, no, there's not, and it's like there's like this thing that it's like he's making Adonis feel bad about his success, and like it's this really cool thing, and like that kind of felt like maybe like Michael B. Jordan, who's kind of seen like this extreme success in becoming an actor, like he's maybe bringing that to the franchise the way like Stallone was able to use the Rocky franchise as a way of like looking at his own success.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And so like I thought that was really, really neat. I really like how Jordan has used this character the way Stallone was using his character.
Yeah, there's some really good subtext there. One thing I questioned was retroactively whether I bought the sort of master manipulation plot.
That is where when I said earlier story contrivances, that was there. It kind of makes some characters look really dumb in hindsight.
And I also think that it maybe just goes farther than it has to with that. I think it makes Dame, like, I think part of the reason that's there is so that he is more menacing, and where like you're not sure where you stand within the whole movie, and then it turns out that he's been manipulating things and like positioning himself from the very, very beginning into a place where he can get the title shot. But I actually think it kind of throws him under the bus a little too much, to the point where by the end, I don't know if I buy them reconciling the way I want to, where I'm like, this guy's a little too malicious for me to buy that you get into the locker room and you just hug it out at the end. And I also wonder, again, full spoilers, I also wondered, Connor, how that conversation would have gone if he'd won. Like, is it the same thing? I think it's a little too oversimplified by the end, maybe. Just on one viewing, where like Rocky movies have a history of making the villain, the antagonist, however you want to put it, a sympathetic, real human being by the end, even if you can't condone all the things that they've done. This maybe takes that too far. Maybe goes to the nines. They have the conversation at the end where they both say, they both admit like none of this was your fault, but it wasn't my fault either. I don't know. You both did some things you shouldn't have done. Like I think it's a little too easy. Like it was. The position that they were in the foster home was horrible. Don't get me wrong, but like, I don't know, should you have punched that guy out right outside of a convenience store? And should the other guy have pulled a gun? And does it make sense that he went to prison and like you escaped and never called him or anything? Like, no, you guys both made a bunch of mistakes. Like, I was a little befuddled by the dialogue in that last scene.
Yeah, and it does kind of come from just like the good guy won ism. So we're just kind of lucky it all wound up the way it did. I will say
it's almost like it's trying too hard to be optimistic because it's afraid. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's almost like it's driving the point home as hard as it can at the end that no, this is an optimistic film. This is supposed to be a feel-good film. Like, it's afraid that it went too dark for a Rocky movie earlier on. And as much as I think Sylvester Stallone got the short end of the stick, and I hate that he felt like he couldn't be involved in this, and I don't like what the producers have done to him in seeming to like take his baby away from him. Like, he used to have the rights to it. He doesn't anymore. I don't fully understand how that happened, but like, if they're at fault with that, it sucks for him, and I get why he feels the way he does about it. But at the same time, there's an interview where Stallone says, I didn't want to be involved in this movie because I like my characters getting beat up. This is what he says. He says I want my characters to get beat up, but I don't want them to go to too dark of a place. And I'm like, I don't know that Adonis goes any darker in this movie than Rocky ever did. I don't really know what he's talking about. And I feel like the movie itself, by the end, is overcompensating, where it's afraid that it's gone to like a really super dark place. I'm like, maybe with his background in the first place, but Rocky also had like a really more than morally ambiguous background where he was a street enforcer, like punching people. How's it any different?
I don't know. And like,
what are we talking about? Like, that's weird.
What I like about the backstory is like I've had like a few of these in recent movies where it's like people are like, I got this secret, I got this dark backstory, and then it's like they finally reveal it, and I'm like, that's it?
That's it?
This one, I felt like it was a good, very morally complicated backstory where it's like everyone just made a lot of mistakes and there's not really a right answer, but like it's not too dark. Like I really appreciated the tone of it, honestly.
And they make you wait for it, and then it's satisfying.
Yeah. That's yeah, exactly.
I didn't mind the non-linear with it, and sometimes I do. Like, and we're also somewhat walled off from our protagonist, and we don't know everything he knows until the movie decides to give it to us. In this particular case, that all seemed justified to me. In some ways, it's almost like I don't know, maybe we're not really in anybody's heads. In some ways, it seems like I'm almost more with his wife the whole movie than I am with him, where, like, she's the character. She's almost the Aizen character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's asking him, like, the questions, like, when he's brushing his teeth. And she's like, so you're going to do this? Like, it's not the questions the audience wants to ask him.
Yeah, maybe that doesn't work as well if we know too much.
Yeah, but I think, like, it motivates that kind of
Sorry, Connor, you cut out for a minute.
I wouldn't want to open up about this to people. Oh, I feel like it motivates like the kind of core theme of like men not opening up about their feelings kind of theme, because it's like, I wouldn't want to open up about this either if this was my backstory. Like, this is, and I wonder if we were to ask Stallone about,
yeah, because
like,
he feels so
movie,
remorseful about it, and you really buy that. Like, how are people going to feel about me if they know this? And then, and maybe we should have dealt a little bit more with public perception of him, because when Dame like calls into the talk show and brings all of this out, you really get on both a personal and a professional level why he wouldn't want any of that to come out. But also you get her perspective, where it's like, this is something that happened a really long time ago. You were basically a kid. You've grown up. You're not that person anymore. You wouldn't do that now. So you own your past and then you move forward, and it's not weakness to say, I really screwed up. And the way to make up for it maybe wasn't give this guy the title shot when he wasn't ready for it, and ultimately he was just doing it because he was jealous, because he was a super malicious master manipulator guy who I guess by the end went, okay, you know what? Now that I got that out of my system, we're good. Like, that was weird.
I just curious to ask Stallone if, once he has seen the final product, if he felt like it was too dark. Because I don't know. Maybe it was just like he heard the concept and he wasn't really won over by it.
Maybe there was a script he read that's different from the one we saw. Like,
maybe.
I don't know. I just didn't think like this was that far off from something he might have written.
Me too.
Which gave it a lot of credibility in this universe, certainly. But I also appreciate that it was able to go its own way so much that it still feels, hip deep in that universe, and it still feels credible as a quote-unquote Rocky story. But we had a really nice transition. Even if you're not going to have Rocky here, and you made a really good point about the way he is kind of half written out at the end, if you want to, the second movie, if you want to look at it that way, like at least thematically, where it's really carved out its own tone now, where like this is about a person with a different background and a different, to some degree, culture than Rocky, and it's owned all of that now. One of my favorite things, and I'm surprised I'm saying this is such a weird thing to notice, but there was a really nice blend, because especially the first movie is a dual protagonist story, but the second one arguably is too. With Creed and Rocky, you've got this kind of blend of urban street level white kid and black kid, and like their respective backgrounds and cultures that they grew up with, some the same, some different. And so you've got the... Are you there? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So you've got the standard like Rocky. That's distracting. You've got the standard like Rocky orchestral music, and then you're bringing in the hip hop and the rap, and this. Because it's all Adonis, is 90 to 95% the Adonis part of the soundtrack, and boy, there's some really excellent rap writing in this movie. There were a couple of tracks that I was really shocked by the impressiveness of the poetry, and there's still some really good orchestral score as well, but I was kind of taken aback by how good some of the rapping was, and the way it thematically connected to the movie. Like all that writing was really good. I didn't think it quite earned bringing back the Rocky score at the end. I kind of didn't want that theme there. That seemed inappropriate to me, but...
Are we in...
I agree,
we're into spoilers, right?
Yeah, I've straight up spoiled everything about the ending already.
Okay.
Connor, I'm sorry for going on for so long. I was being somewhat strategic because I couldn't tell if you were even still here, so I thought I would just run with it and then see when you finally were for sure in the call.
No, good call. I think that was strategically aces. Good job.
Did you hear anything I said?
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry, Jayson, go ahead and then we'll...
Have you talked about the really funny scene with him?
I thought you had nothing to say.
I just thought of it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Have you talked about the Hollywood scene yet?
Yeah, there was a real cheese factor to the montage. It's definitely not my favorite montage.
Yeah, I think like you can kind of. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, like I think you can sort of like Rocky and Creed montages are typically I don't know if you guys have that, but like the montage here, pretty good. Not as good as the montage in the first one. Definitely not as good as the montage in the second one. But you know what? It's solid.
No, I think
know,
the
thought
second one
Hollywood
might be
bit
my
was
favorite Rocky montage of all time.
It's so good.
It's so good.
But like the part where he like gets to the top of the Hollywood sign and screams, like I was like that reminded me of the Rocky 4. He gets to the top of the mountain and yells Drago.
Do you not feel like
we're
because I think Jordan is trying to, you know, take the movie seriously, but also have as much fun as he can without ruining the credibility of it. I feel like there's this line he's walking where he's like, okay, we're 3 in. It's a Rocky sequel, so I don't want to jump the shark, but in certain places I want to push that as far as I can push it. Because, like, you wouldn't put the Hollywood sign thing in the first movie. It's just cheesy. He has to know how cheesy that is. He's got to be doing that on purpose. I kind of respect it. Like, it's a Rocky sequel. It's like, by Rocky 3, we're already starting to get a little cheeseball in some places that we didn't do with 1 and 2. And then by the time you get to 4, you not only have like the stupid robot thing, but you have the double montage. You have the montage in the car with the song that just turns into a music video where we're just playing the greatest hits of everything from the movies. And this rides right up against that.
And this movie has a montage of the antagonist washing his face.
Yeah,
Connor,
see,
you're still
I don't
cutting
know.
it
Like
out.
I was won over by it. Like kind of like. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna drop out and see if I can pop back in.
Yeah, would you? Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. We've got this lag with Connor, and he's kind of jumping in and out, and it is messing with the natural flow of conversation here. But
Not natural flow of conversation.
But he should be right back.
Cool.
He's probably just got to flip over to his phone. Yeah, he's got internet issues sometimes.
Connor.
Well, that's not his fault.
Yeah, it's his internet's fault. He should switch to Google Fiber.
Avatar Desto, Creed 2 montage was peak. Matthew Bass, Creed 2 montage is amazing. Yes, it's spectacular. Avatar Desto, again, it's weird he said it's too dark. I feel like this is in line with the other 2 Creed movies. I did too. I'm very perplexed by...
I don't understand that. I really like this shot because in the background there's just golden power staff.
Yeah, right behind me.
Yeah.
Desto, again, maybe this would have been better in 2 parts with Adonis losing at the end and having to regain his title next movie. That's a terrific point. Because I feel like if you'd done that, you might not have felt as rushed at the end, and you could also have kind of an interesting parallel to, it'd be a very different thing, of course, but to the Rocky Creed rivalry, where it takes us another movie before they genuinely become friends. And it'd be interesting if you could have that happen over a couple of movies, as opposed to just, I felt like kind of rushing to it by the end and having them sit down and go, yeah, okay, I guess at the end of the day, I probably didn't handle this right, and I do care about you. And like, I said this already, but I just feel like this antagonist is too menacing. He's, or not menacing, but he's too malicious in the way he goes about his villain plot.
Yeah.
To then at the end be able to kind of make up with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I know we were talking about.
I just feel like something's almost got to be broken in you when you're capable of that, when you're that vindictive about it.
Yeah.
And I guess the problem is I didn't see the opportunity for change on screen. I didn't feel like I saw the moment where he goes, "Oh wow, I really handled this wrong," or I understand, like the place where that he gets to where he really could forgive Adonis now, where he could understand why he wouldn't respond to him all that time.
Yeah. Also, why did
Sorry about that.
why did the grandmother not give him the letters?
Let's get to that, because that's the thing I wanted to ask Connor about. Connor, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thanks for popping back in.
Your quality has just jumped up off the movie.
Has it really? That's good.
It doesn't look that different.
I guess it doesn't.
Okay, so Connor, last major thing I wanted to cover with Creed 3, you guys feel free to bring up anything else you want to, and folks in the comments as well. We were just talking to the commenters for a couple minutes about the movie. Connor, how do you feel about the way Mama Creed is handled in choosing, or in like not giving him any of the letters over all that time, and that being like the last thing that we have before she dies? Like, is she thrown under the bus? Like, how'd you feel about all that?
So this is kind of touching into some of that other stuff happening towards the end of the second act, with like the montage of him yelling at the top of the Hollywood sign, and then also like Damien calling into the sports show to like challenge him to the fight that way. Like, it is all kind of, you could call it corny. You could call it like, this is very traditional in a way that we don't see anymore, and maybe for good reason. But I was kind of won over by it. Like, the drama of it, I think, led to some good, at least in the case of her, like some good character moments. And I don't know, like, I guess I could buy that, like, she could kind of see him as like a bad influence and was just kind of trying to keep the two of them distanced. I mean, I don't think she would have known that he would eventually turn up to try to challenge him for the heavyweight champion of the world. But at the same time, it all does kind of play into this wider thing of a lot of people just making a lot of mistakes. But I don't know, I guess I didn't think too much about it, but if it's like a weird contrivance that people don't like, I could understand that.
I had that with it in the moment, and I've been kind of wrestling with it a little bit, trying to decide how I feel about it, because she's been, so much like his conscience and voice of reason and everything through all these movies. I'm not saying she shouldn't like make any mistakes at all, but it did feel like kind of a plot device in two ways. One, to give Adonis like more of a reason to never talk to him in the first place, which I guess kind of makes sense, because he wasn't like actively avoiding the guy. He like if he'd known there were letters, he probably would have written back, but then you wouldn't have a movie. So that's probably what they're thinking. Like there's got to be some reason for that. But like, he also could have just not written or not had and I mean, they didn't move or anything, so I guess he'd have the address or whatever. But like that felt a little contrived. But then it was also a plot device for the actual events of the movie, because she had to have a picture of the guy that he knew in prison who went and attacked Drago, so that Drago can't be in the big fight for the title, so that Creed would have a reason to put him in, and he can't be totally sure that that's who Creed would pick, because Creed, I think, should have more choices than he has. That was a little bit too easy as well.
That's the one big thing I had, and because not only is it just that, it's also like, okay, like if you're Showtime or you're like some big like company putting on a big fight, usually you would have it like you have a legal team, and they could probably look into like, okay, who's this guy that attacked Drago? Oh, it's this guy who served prison. Oh, he just so happened, like, we could just look it up. He served time with Damian Anderson. That's not happening. That sounds like a conflict of interest. Like, yeah, I don't know. That felt way too easy to get that fight going.
Yeah, and it's also weird that the Boxing Federation, like, they've got to feel weird about the sheer number of like convicted felons that they're giving title fight chances to,
Right?
because the guy he fights at the beginning, who was the big antagonist for the first movie, he also just got out of prison, I think.
No, he served some jail time because he was like beating people up like in public. Yeah, so he has like a sketchy legal.
Is that why they
situation.
did that, so that we would buy more? That is this just a whole bunch of retroactive writing? We're given these things so that the audience won't cry foul on like a convicted felon who's never fought professionally getting a title fight chance.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's yeah, it is. That stuff is contrived.
But also going back to Felicia Rashad, who's an actress I've always liked a lot, and I love that she got this role and she got 3 movies. The one thing that does make it squarely, or has a thing that is squarely Rocky 3, is she is just Mickey, right?
Yeah, very much so.
They definitely did that. But I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence about how she's treated in this. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like she gets a lot of cool stuff. I like the kind of the angle of like, you know, she's kind of getting to the end of her life and like she's had some strokes and or a stroke and the way we send her off I think is really sweet. I don't know. I think like I don't know what I'm saying ultimately. Like I don't think I was as down on it as you were. I thought she was fine. I didn't think too much about it. But yeah, if you feel like she was a little thrown under the bus, I can understand that.
That was my initial feeling about it. I'm not sure where I land on it. So last thing, they've kept where Rocky is and what's happening with him completely ambiguous in case Stallone comes back, right? Like he could be dead right now. It could just be that they're in California and he's in Philadelphia, and they like, this is not a situation where Adonis felt the need to call him, or a situation where Rocky would feel the need to be at that fight, maybe necessarily. Like I feel like they did maybe a decent job of my buying his not remotely being involved if he's not alive. I mean, if he is alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it is kind of cool because
it's kind of like that Avengers problem, right? Where you have to come up with some kind of a reason the Avengers don't all show up.
Well, and what I like here is, like you were talking about, you know, character parallels with like his dad. What I kind of liked about this is like, I feel like I could see more of who Apollo was, you know, apart from Rocky in those original movies, just through his son. Where like, you know, in Rocky 4, you know, Apollo, he's like, I got to get back in the ring, Rock. I got to do it. You know, I'm not really liking the whole business side of things too much. But so it was kind of cool to see Adonis. What I like about that second one is he moves back to Hollywood to sort of like assert his own identity, right? It's also like the franchise rooting its own identity apart from Philadelphia and Rocky.
And so that we won't question why Rocky's not here.
Exactly. So I think like it does a good job, I think, carrying that here. There is one thing I had a thought about, and I was curious what you thought of this. In the second movie, the Rumble in the Jungle is referenced once. In this one, the Rumble in the Jungle is like this almost thematic through line, where there's like a ticket that's, you know, in the opening sequence, and then I can't help but sort of see Damien versus Jordan. They're kind of framing it as sort of contemporary Rumble in the Jungle, and I was thinking, are we going to go to Africa, or like what are we going to do with that? And it does sort of seem to be like they're just fighting for the soul of LA because they're both from LA. But I don't know, maybe frame it as like more of a concrete jungle. Yeah. But like the concrete jungle is New York. You know what I mean? So it was an interesting concept. I don't think the environment of LA is maybe drawn enough as like their Africa, the way like, you know.
Did they think it was enough that it was outside? Is that the whole reason they made it outside?
Maybe, I don't know. That was, but I think that thematic through line is a compelling one. But I don't think the text of the story kind of relates to that historical event.
Well, I was just distracted. That's a terrific point. I didn't think of it. And I think it's because I was distracted by the idea that a guy who's in prison for 20 years can somehow get a ticket in an envelope to his friend's mom. I didn't understand that. How did he? Was it on his person when he went to prison, and then he got one of the guards to get it out of his personal effects?
Yeah.
Is that what happened? Like, I don't know if I buy that.
Like, did he like hide it under an armpit the entire time he was like going through like showers and everything?
Yeah.
And then, like,
That
I'm
was
gonna send
weird.
this back in a few years. Oh man.
That's who
Yeah, I
cares? It's a
don't know.
nitpick. But did you have that thought? As soon as I saw that ticket, I was like, he was in prison.
Well, I mean, he was also sending stuff when he wasn't in prison.
No, he just gotten out. Like
Right,
days
like,
ago.
Before he went in prison. Well, no, that's not true.
No. What are you talking about?
Is that true?
Why would he be sending things to his mom before he was in prison?
Yeah, no. So like Adonis gives him the ticket the night he goes to prison.
Yeah.
So he would have had to send it while he was in prison.
Oh, it was the same night? Okay, well that's kind of easy, but at least I sort of buy it was with him in prison. I'm talking about this too much. But that was just a thing that I thought about. Avatar Desto, who's a name I don't recognize, by the way, and thanks a lot for watching, man, has had some terrific points about this movie. And here's another one. He says, it felt kind of weird Rocky wasn't at the funeral. I get there's stuff behind the scenes, but that's the one time his presence felt missed in the movie. And I wasn't thinking that in the moment, I think, because I haven't watched 1 and 2 in a while. But boy, if you watch these in rapid succession, I think you'd absolutely feel a missing there because like they have screen time together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like don't they get along? Doesn't like she and Rocky respect each other?
They do. I'm trying to remember a scene they have together, because I remember in 2, like, she does reach out to him to bring him to talk to Donnie.
Yeah.
But like, he shows up at like her house and she's not there, but it is just him.
I thought they had screen time together in 1 maybe, but it's just been a while.
Maybe they do.
Regardless, though, yeah, he probably would show up for them.
I feel like he would. Yeah, no, that's good.
But we might find out that he's dead. And I think if Stallone doesn't work things out with these producers, and honestly, I don't think that's going to happen. Just the way he's talking about that whole situation, like he's so soured on them, and especially if they move forward. And I don't mean to just talk about the drama in this situation, but the whole thing is sad. And honestly, I don't mean to take sides in a situation I don't fully understand, but he doesn't like milking the franchise for all it's worth and trying to turn it into a shared universe, and that is precisely what they want to do with it. And if that happens, look, if they make that Drago movie, and if they make, they just said they want to make a spin-off with his daughter. What is that about? She's freaking like 8 years old. What would that movie even be? If they do that kind of crap, there's no way he's in for. Like, regardless of anything else they could work out, that's not going to happen, I don't think. But like, if he's not in for, they'll just say he's dead.
If they kill him off screen, I'm gonna be really upset.
See, I don't mind if they kill him off screen as long as they tell us he's been dead for a while. I think I'm okay, because he could be dead during this movie. We don't really know.
He could be. I don't know, because what's disheartening about it, and this is the thing everyone knows about Rocky, is like Rocky is like Stallone's cinematic avatar. It's like it's him. And so just to kind of see it, like, I'm not opposed to like a Creed movie not having Rocky in it, but to just sort of like do that character that dirty, it feels like icky. I don't like that.
Okay, can I counter you though? Because that is a really valid perspective, and I'm just going to give you the devil's advocate, the other side of it, which is most of the other major characters in this franchise have died off screen. I just want to throw that out there. We did the same thing with Adrian. We did the same thing with Paulie. Like, we've never had, not never, but like a lot of these characters have died off. If they got old with the franchise, they died off screen.
Yeah, but they're not Stallone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stallone is like...
No, I think you're ultimately right about it, but
He's the guy who wrote, and he wrote like all of the original 6.
Yep.
He directed 4 of them. Like, that's not nothing. And he co-wrote the second Creed movie. Like, to me, it's just like this thing where it's like his presence there. It's I don't know. I'm not articulating this. I gotta come up with a better way of articulating my argument. It is just kind of like a matter of it's him, and in a way that like Burt Young was not Polly, in a way that Talia Shire was not Adrian. Like, Talia Shire is related to the Coppolas. She's not like a pet store girl, you know. Like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be maybe you'll be more okay with it if it doesn't happen until after Stallone himself has passed.
Sure.
Because he may not be able to show up in another... I think it would be weird to say, well, we need to see him one more time, especially after the argument you made that like, he had a really good final line last movie.
No, that's true, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how I feel about just don't talk about Rocky if Stallone's not going to be there, and that's how I feel about it. And if Stallone does die in real life, then maybe address Rocky dying. But like, to me, it does sort of seem wrong to just like, Stallone is out there and willing to do Rocky if you're willing to work the whole legal stuff out with him, and then it's like you just say, oh no, he's dead, like completely cutting off like the possibility of Rocky coming back or whatever. That feels like you just stole like his creative child from him.
And see, I feel like that's already happened is the thing. Like, he wanted to make he wanted to make like a TV miniseries.
Oh really?
Yeah, he wanted to do like a streaming TV series with it.
Interesting. I just feel like,
I wonder if that's why he took Tulsa King, because he'd never done anything TV like that, and now he's doing Tulsa King.
Check out my new show, King of Tulsa, or Tulsa something.
Speaking of,
he goes, I got this new show, King of Tulsa. I guess it's called Tulsa King.
Speaking of actors getting the names of titles wrong, at the Screen Actors Guild awards, like Mark Wahlberg was like reading like the nominees for like best ensemble, and there's a movie called Women Talking that's like up for awards, and he called it Women Are Talking. It was really funny. Yeah, I don't know, like the whole Stallone situation just sucks, but like,
yeah, it does.
But you know, it doesn't sound like it's completely, the business side of it doesn't sound like it's affecting the artistic credibility at this point. Like,
Not yet. I
so,
think it's gonna.
I just want to hold on to this moment.
Yeah.
Know, like,
no, I'm terrified it's
hopefully
gonna. They need to not
come back for Creed 4. Like, I'm okay. I don't want a shared universe. Like, that just.
It's just, it was Michael B. Jordan. Not. Don't quote me on this. I think I read this morning. I was reading an interview from him, and I think it was him who coined the term Creedverse. And as soon as I read that, I was like, you guys are gonna nail it to the ground. Like, I'm really concerned about it. I'm not saying I don't want to see a Creed 4. I just don't need every damn thing to be spun off. Like, it's boxing movies, guys. There's only so many stories you can tell. Like,
well, and yeah, and it's like, I mean, I'm amazed and impressed by like the stuff they've been able to get out of like boxing movies. 9
so far, 9 times.
Like,
yeah.
Like the Creed trilogy is
at
almost
least
just
8
like
times. I mean,
yeah,
you know, 5 notwithstanding.
I was gonna say, like, it's amazing. You look at the Creed trilogy, and it's like, wow, look at all the stuff we can, like, how we can remix Creed 5 and make it good 3 different times. Like, I hate Rocky 5 with a passion. So, like, the 3 of these, like, actually taking elements and making them work.
Dad hates Rocky 5 so much, I've never seen the movie.
Really? Okay. Good call.
We'll watch it at some point. It's funny, but it's not very good.
It might actually have the single dumbest ending to a movie I've ever seen. Like, it's so stupid.
It definitely has this. I brought this up before. We'll go ahead and finish up here. You know, I've been wanting to do commentaries on those movies forever, and I still haven't gotten around to it. And now I've got like 4 different co-hosts that want to do those, and I don't know how that's. Maybe I'll assign different movies to different people.
That would be cool.
Austin wants to do it. Connor wants to do it. Rasco and I talked about it forever. I don't know if he'd come back for it, but we've talked about it for a long time. Like everybody wants to be in the. Everybody wants to be in the Rocky movies. It's really funny.
We could do a big, like 24-hour Rocky stream, and it could be like or I guess like 12.
Yeah.
Because there's not that many movies, but it could be like the Weird Al movie and the
just have too many people here.
Have way too many people.
Rocky binges well too.
Like John just watched through all these, and he freaking loved Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, we have John there. John's turning into my 24-hour stream guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look, I signed me up for for Rocky 3. If I can't get Rocky 3, I'll take Creed 2. If I can't get Creed 2, I'll do Rocky 5.
Oh my God, I'd love to have you on Rocky 5 because we'll just laugh the whole time. There won't even be a dialogue.
I want Rocky 3.
Laughing. So, but what I wanted to say is
so good.
Rocky 4 not only has, Rocky 5 not only has one of the dumbest endings of all time, it has one of the dumbest beginnings of all time.
Yes, yes, it's so stupid.
My favorite thing to complain about with the Rocky franchise, I've thought about just making a video about this all by itself, is you get to Rocky 5 and Rocky is still in Russia. And when he comes back from Russia, it's the 90s now. It's amazing. Like, how long was he there? Like, 4 years have passed. He gets back and all of a sudden, there's all these politics in boxing that weren't there before. The boxing commission is thinking about shutting down boxing because it's gotten too violent. There was no talk about that when he left. I was like, you didn't go to Mars. You went to Russia.
Look, in the Rocky universe, the Cold War ended, 5-6 years early? Because, I mean, he ended the Cold War with a speech. And
he ended the Cold War. And they came back and the Berlin Wall fell while he was there.
Yeah. Oh, my God. And then, like, the whole inciting incident of, like, Paulie just lost all their money. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. That is so stupid.
Well, I turned to Jayson while we were watching this when we find out that Creed has, like a dynasty now. He's got what do they call it? He's got a company. It's like Creed Sports.
Dynasty.
He's got a King Dynasty. It's like Creed Sports. I turned over to Jayson and I was like, okay, so in the next movie, who screws up his empire? Who makes a bad business deal? And you know what? They should do it with Dame because he and Dame are friends now.
Yeah.
So Dame so it turns out that but. You do it better than with Paulie, right? Where it's not just blatant incompetence, this was also a long con. And the whole time, what Dame really wanted was not just a chance at the title fight, but a chance at screwing Creed out of all of his money, and then he's gonna take it, and he's like, yeah, I rehearsed that locker room conversation in the mirror that morning, and when we had this fight, I had every intention of losing. That was the whole plan.
Oh my God, that would be one amazing wraparound.
And actually, I might believe that one more than the first long con, because remember, the way he wins the title fight is he fights real dirty, and he like almost puts that guy in the does put that guy in the hospital, right? Is it Drago he fights?
No, he fights the other guy. He takes Drago.
No, I'm sorry, he fights Conlon, right?
Yeah. No, Conlon doesn't fight outside of the opening scene. It's like this Chavez guy.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. So I couldn't remember who it was. And then so then we find out that this whole thing was a big long con, and that's why he didn't fight Creed as dirty as he did that other guy. Creed would be in the hospital.
Yeah. Couple quick notes I want to rattle off here.
I hope they come to me to write the script for Creed 4. I'm gonna make it the worst Rocky movie since Rocky 5.
So the costumes I loved in this. I thought what Damien wears is great. Creed's costumes look really cool. I like the kind of the way you can just
the skeleton mask.
Yeah,
that was awesome. I love Apollo's just like pure white, like boxing shorts and gloves. All that stuff was just dynamite. character. I do think like the whole kind of what we're gonna do with her in terms of like using like the way we parent her is also kind of emblematic of like where we are in terms of like trying to balance our sort of anger issues versus ambitions type thing. Like it's good as a catalyst for them. I don't feel like it comes back to the daughter in a satisfying enough way. Now we could delve more into that into a Creed 4.
Yeah,
I think just in terms of this story,
her solo film.
Here's what I want. I want it to be like it looks like she wants to do boxing, and then as she gets older, she decides not to, because we never really got to see Rocky and his son not really connect over that.
Yeah.
And it'd be cool to actually see that happen with Adonis, where he has to kind of come to terms with like, my child does not take after this thing the way I did, and he has to maybe learn to reconcile that.
So
maybe he could talk to his buddy Rocky. Maybe.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I have two predictions for Creed 4, and one of them is, even if Rocky doesn't come, maybe especially if he doesn't come back, I think there will be a scene at least with his son and her in the next movie. I think he'll come back. Milo, what's his face?
DJ Martinez III.
You're right. Yes. No. I think he'll come back, and they'll try to parallel those characters, and he'll like mentor her in exactly what you're talking about. That's a thought I had. And the other thing that I think you'll see in the next movie is, and this might be an obvious thing to say, but I think you'll see his wife finally full on lose her hearing, and the movie will either open or like the beginning of the third act or something will be her final performance.
Okay.
Because they kind of set that up in this, where like she's saving it, she's not gonna go on stage yet. I don't think they do that off camera. I think they'll show her last performance.
Yeah, they ought to. That would.
And they'll parallel it with a big fight or something like that.
Yeah.
Avatar Desto says, can she even do boxing? I had that question. Like, are there professional female boxing leagues?
I don't know, and especially like with her like lack of hearing, like can you not hear the bell? Like, things like that.
Could she even qualify?
Yeah, exactly. But I would like to see that, because it's like it'd be cool to see like, Adonis is a boxer and Apollo was a boxer, and it's like I am a child of a boxer, and I expected my child to also want to do that, and it's like I don't know what it's like to have a lineage where someone kind of breaks off from that trajectory. I think that would be compelling drama, especially for this character. Another thing though, one piece of direction I really liked, one piece of direction I did not like. One piece of direction I liked a lot was that part where he's brushing his teeth, and in the first Creed movie, we have that part where Stallone's like, hey, look at that fighter there in the mirror. That's the big fighter you always got to be fighting, right?
How long is he going to be stuck like that? Okay, he's good
no.
Now. You got stuck on an amazing face because you were doing a Stallone impression, and you were like, that's the fighter that you got.
I like how there's a shot where he is looking at himself in the. He's like kind of debating whether he should let Damian go for the title match, and that kind of calls back to that, like he's still kind of fighting the man in the mirror even after he's left the ring. I like that.
Yeah.
Piece of direction I did not like is what Jayson alluded to earlier. The CGI expressionist fight scene is, I understand what they're trying to do. I didn't like it in execution.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if you were with us on that or not.
I kept coming back to Matrix Revolutions.
Oh yeah,
I kept coming back to that scene. Like from the first fight, I was like, "Oh, it's just the."
Yeah, he gets hit real hard into the cheek, and then it's super slow motion, and then he's got the spittle that flies out, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't have the thing you guys did. I liked the fight scenes well enough. I think they are the weakest in the Creed series. Look, Steven Capel Jr.'s advent of just having an overhead camera on the boxing ring, it just like added this whole new dimension of like excitement. It was so cool.
No, that's great, but other than that, it's shot too close.
I can see, like, I will say, I think, so I watched this in IMAX, and in the boxing scenes, like, the frame gets bigger, and I think maybe I like that. I don't know what format you guys watched it in, but I like the boxing.
Standard movie theater, so we didn't have that. We did sit in a really close row, so that might have been part of the problem for me, I guess, that it was shot too close. But it seemed too close for Rocky.
I can see where you're coming from with that. So like I get what the idea behind that big like CG fight scene is, where it's like, okay, in all of these movies, like all of them, you get to the final fight and it's like you see you're there, you're like in it for like rounds 1 and 2, and then we kind of montage until like rounds 11 and 12, and it's like, okay, so are we just gonna do another big long montage of like rounds 3 through 10? Or 11 or whatever. And this one, they say, let's just do the montage as like this weird expressionistic thing. I just feel like it, and I've heard this, I know people are saying this in the comments of like, oh, well, Michael B. Jordan was really looking at anime as an influence. And I can
Is
see
that an appropriate influence for this material? I don't know.
I think the way he incorporates the anime sort of fighting in like just like the boxing stuff as a light influence is pretty cool. When he does kind of step more than a big toe, when he does get his foot into that as like the big CGI stuff, that's where I have a problem.
It's too special effectsy is the problem. Like I didn't mind like losing the audience. It's just the two of them, or even putting things from their past in the background, as maybe heavy-handed as that is. What took me out is that it was a special effect. Like if you could find a way to do it where it felt like it was all there, but we still understood it's not really happening, then I'm okay with it. I didn't want it to look like a cartoon. Like, it's not a special effects movie. Like, Rocky shouldn't have visual effects, and if it does, I shouldn't notice them. That's how I feel about it.
Where, like, the sort of corniness of, like, these movies, I think that's where it kind of oversteps it. Like, him yelling at the top of the Hollywood sign, I'm there for that.
I'm there for that.
Calling him in and, like, challenging him over the phone on live TV. Hell yeah. I love that. I'm surprised we haven't done that yet, honestly.
Well, Jason's favorite thing in the moment seemed to be when it goes to like ESPN or whatever it is, and we're getting it edited just like whatever the show would be. That it's like we're just watching TV for like 5 minutes. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. That stuff's fun.
Can't remember what that was called. It wasn't ESPN, but it was.
Yeah, whatever the boxing show was, where we're just in that show now, and there's a narrator, and Jayson just immediately starts laughing, like, "Oh, we're just watching TV now."
One other thing, this is another thing that goes back to like the formatting, like inconsistencies. In the first 2 Creed movies, it's HBO Sports, and this one, it's Showtime Sports, and I'm like, why is it different? I don't like things that are different.
No, that's what it was. Showtime. Yeah.
So. I feel like with
next time Creed will get his own network, and it'll be Creed Sports, like the TV network. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like for the final fight, they should have just taken all the people out of the baseball stadium, and then they should have shot it at night and just put like a couple lights on, and then it would be good for just like 5 minutes, and then come back to like
less is more with that.
Cheering and everything, and like. And maybe have some like kind of like score like music with the like da 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 or something. I don't know, some kind of like maybe like classical kind of thing. You know, I feel like that's the direction that he should have took instead of what he did do.
Connor, let me ask you one more question real quick before we finish up. Because I made this point earlier, and I just want to know if you agree or if you feel differently about it. How do you feel about bringing back the Rocky theme at all? I don't like it.
I don't think I like it either. So I do feel a little conflicted in saying that, because to me, like, the definitive hero shot of Adonis Creed in these movies is in part 2, where he stands up, or like he's like knocked Drago over for the first time, and it's this slow-mo push-in as he's like in the ring, and like the Rocky music is playing, and it's like, to me, like iconic. It's so cool.
I just don't think it works if Rocky's not in the film.
And that's where I think I'm coming at.
It's like, is it Rocky's theme? Or is it the theme of this franchise now, or has Creed earned that theme? Did it like transfer between them?
For
You
that
know,
last
like
line.
Yeah.
like superpowers or something. Like did they like did he get it? Did he infect Creed with this theme? I don't know, and I'm not saying that he's not a good enough protagonist to earn that. I don't know if the movie earns it. Like I don't know if it belongs to. And Avatar says Creed needs his own theme. He seems to have one. Like he's got his own melody that goes throughout the movie. It's not the bombastic thing that would work right after you've won a fight or whatever. It's like da 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 da. Like it doesn't have that part of the theme. So I don't know what you would do there. But I don't know if we should have that when Rocky's not in the film.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel similarly like about that, but people recognize it, so that's why we gotta have it. I guess.
Yeah, but this movie is so good about not being nostalgia beaty whatsoever.
Right. No, I agree. I think that if the first movie didn't quite get the iconic Creed music, give him one, because I feel like he's more than stood his ground as a compelling enough protagonist who can carry his own movie. So
yeah, you don't need it anymore.
give him. Yeah,
you felt like it was leaning on it or something. I don't know, or like that's what we do with these movies. And then if that's the case, okay, but you haven't been uniform about any of the other stuff we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. The formatting has been pretty like updated now. So.
Well, Connor, we're going to have to get going. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed our reviews of 65, but mostly of of Creed 3. And eventually we'll go through the Rocky movies here on the channel. I've been real remiss on doing that. And now we've got 9 of them. When I first watched the Rocky movies, my wife took, because I didn't grow up with these, my wife took me through them one at a time, day by day, when I was working at the mortuary, Connor. And so like Sunday through Saturday, or through Friday, we watched all the movies that had come out so far. There were only 6, so we watched through Rocky Balboa, and we didn't have the Creed movies yet. Now there's 9. It's crazy. There's more than a week's worth now.
Whoa. Whoa. I remember when I was watching the Rocky movies, I have a coworker who's just all about them. So I watched one a day, Sunday through Thursday. So then the next day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I would come in and I'm like, all right, just watched Rocky 3. It was awesome. And we would just talk about those that week. It was a pretty cool experience.
Did you ever see the rant video I made about a Rocky action figure?
No.
Do you know about this? Okay, so I will. Can I tell you what it is though?
Yeah.
Because it's one of my favorite things I ever found. So there was this line that had Rocky figures, and they got somewhat obscure. And there was a whole action figure for what should have been an accessory.
I remember this.
And the action figure was called the Meat.
What?
And it was a big ass slab of meat.
Oh my god!
And these figures are really rare now. It probably cost me $35 or $40 to buy the Meat, but I want it so much.
That's awesome. Okay, that's the guy. I gotta see that video.
I'll send you this. Yeah, it's amazing. We're gonna go ahead and get going. Thanks a lot for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it. And Connor. Sorry, I'll say this real quick too. Connor, you asked me before we did this, like a little week or two ago. You're like, how much of that video is gonna be us just talking about our experience with the Rocky franchise? And I was like, I've talked about this enough. Like, probably none. We'll probably just nope. Didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's a legacy thing. There's a lot of them. Like I said, there's 9 of them. Yeah, it is what it is.
We'll see you later, folks. I was Captain Logan. This was Jayson.
I was Jayson.
And we had Connor Nielsen.
Pow.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. Bye, folks.